Alright, weapons segment. I'm going to talk to you about how to use these weapons on an introductory level and give you a couple of tips that might remove some of the confusion and make you more familiar with the weapon faster. I'm not going to do a deep dive, I'm not going to jump on the code, I'm not going to bust out a spreadsheet. I am going to tell you to hold down your use key with any piece of equipment, gun, item, medical tech. I don't have to explain to you your controls. If it's wearing a helmet, most likely it's going to be wearing body armor. So that means the jackboots, any of the Marines walking around in multiple colors, but usually green, and the former human commandos. Yeah, I know they don't have a helmet, but they're wearing armor, I'll promise you. It takes a hell of a beating. It's the same armor that you get to wear. If you don't have enough firepower to punch right through it, you always have the choice of shooting in the head or shooting the legs, as the body armor does not protect these. You'll find shields on higher tier monsters and bosses. The shields are these green sparkling things when you shoot them. It acts as a recharging health buffer, and you have to break these shields to start hitting their health. Some demons have huge shield pools and are best handled with huge guns or lots of bleeding. Most weapons in the mod are going to shoot projectiles. You're not really going to notice this unless you're playing co-op with bad lag or you're shooting at distances way longer than most Doom maps have. Hideous Destructor avoids using an aim-down sight mechanic. When your weapon is equipped, it is shouldered and in a state of high ready, with your sight picture fully or partially visible at all times. This can throw off folks when they're first starting, as they're used to a traditional hold a button to aim, but it's really cozy and reflexive once you get used to it. There are a few settings you can adjust for scopes and aiming in the HD options menu, such as passive sights, whether or not your sight picture stays on entirely while moving, and red dot style. You can reflexively brace your weapon against terrain to reduce recoil. This can be done on the ground, when crouching, or on any raised ground surface or ledge, and it makes this little click noise. To brace against a vertical surface like a wall or a pole or whatever you can find, you'll have to press your weapon against the wall until you hear it knock against the wall, and then you can bring it back and get the recoil benefit. One of the zoom key's many functions is to force this weapon bracing when you're near the appropriate surface. If you have your scopes set to passive only, here in the options menu, the zoom key will bring up that scope. Reloading and unloading are handled very naturally for magazine-fed small arms. Tapping the reload key like normal drops the old magazine on the ground and loads another one as fast as possible. To hold on to the magazine, hold the reload key. This action safely stows the old magazine and then loads a new one. Unloading works the same. Tap unload to drop the mag out, hold it to take it with you. Weapons that load rounds individually all have different behaviors and take some practice to learn how they load. A small note here is that the more hurt you are, the slower you load rounds into weapons that load individually. This is where the super shotgun is very forgiving. More on that in a moment. Melee attacks can do work here in a realism mod, believe it or not. You can throw straight hits and jabs, lunging hits that use your speed to add some extra oomph, and a push followed by a heavy swing that's very useful for getting rid of a grappling enemy. Striking enemies throws off their aim, and your turning inertia can add some extra torque to the hit and make a whole world of difference when you turn a jab into a hook or a lunge into an uppercut. Having no weapons equipped also increases your agility. You can climb onto higher ledges. You can use your hands to brace your impact from a fall and fall from a little higher. You can start sprinting instantly. Hands-free also means you can drag objects, items, corpses, friends' corpses. Anything that is an object in the world, you can grab and move. The pistol's a trusty, controllable backup weapon that does not collide on any terrain and has the fastest draw of any weapon in the game. There's a keybind specifically for pulling it out. Take the hint. 9mm may not have much upfront damage, but it has strong bleeds and is pretty good at defeating shields. It takes some practice and a lot of skill, but you can take down a Hell Knight with just a handgun. If you have to kill an enemy with shields and you don't have a terrible amount of firepower, leading off with the pistol to reduce the shields is a common tactic before switching back to a stronger weapon. It has 15 rounds in a magazine, and you can find a fully automatic version. The Magnum is a 6-shooter, with a lower rate of fire than the standard pistol, but the heavier .355 round works really well against shields and punches through armor on any former humans still wearing it. The revolver can also chamber 9mm rounds in a pinch, but the ejector retention does not work properly, and when you unload it, it'll dump out any unfired 9mm shots. So the submachine gun gives you that shield kill, and the extra bleeding power of 9mm Magnum, but faster, more controllable, stronger, and more accurately than the handgun. Hell Knights with a handgun are tough. Hell Knights with a submachine gun are no problem at all. You can plug tons of bleeding holes into either an entire crowd or one big monster, then jump back behind cover and just let all the bleeding handle the hard work. It's got 30 rounds of magazine, and it's actually integrally suppressed. 12 gauge has a very bad time against shields and body armor. It just doesn't do anything to them. But if it isn't armored, 12 gauge is savage. It ruins it. It blows it away. It's amazing. Our most common shotgun is the Hunter. This 8-round pump-action shotgun is a reliable workhorse of a gun that gives you plenty of follow-up shots when needed, and has storage loops on the buttstock for an additional 12 shells that don't need to be drawn from your inventory and can therefore be loaded faster. Whenever you hit reload using a shotgun, you pull from these storage loops first. After a full reload, it's a good idea to hold reload again and fill up these loops so they're there when you need them. You have to manually pump the Hunter after each shot, unless you switch it to semi-auto. The downside of semi-auto is found not in the gun, but in the ammunition, as there's a lot of this ammunition lying around that's just not very good. It won't generate enough gas after it's fired to kick the old round out and load the new round in. Some Marines choose to pump their own shotgun instead of risking a jam on semi-automatic. And what the Slayer Super Shotgun lacks in total capacity and number of follow-up shots, it makes up for in damage output and forgiveness. One barrel at a time is bad news. Both barrels at the same time is just cruel. The Slayer reloads are simple and happen very quickly at any health level compared to their peers. The side saddles also hold 12 rounds, same as the Hunter, and side saddle reloads for the Slayer are fast. The Volt ZM66 is not a bad gun. It has a lot of drama in the lore, it jams a bunch, it cooks off when you shoot it too much, but it's not a bad gun. The ZM is chambered in 4.26mm, a high-velocity round with good stopping power at the cost of poor performance against shields and decent performance against armor. With a little practice, the moderate recoil can be used just out of short range on any fire mode without the need to stop and aim. Shooting too much on burst or fully automatic will cause the gun to get so hot that the caseless rounds will shoot themselves as they load into the gun, and it'll run out of control and dump the rest of your magazine. The gun comes in semi-automatic only or select fire versions, both of which can have an attached grenade launcher. Semi-auto is very controllable and usable on the move. Burst is insane damage in a very short time, but has a very high jam chance. I don't have to explain fully automatic fire. The biggest pain in the ass with the ZM is how it handles its magazines. If you have to load a used magazine, you tap reload to start the reloading process, ignore the legal warning, then tap reload again to force the magazine past the ammunition verification mechanism. Last side note about using dirty ZM mags is if you decide to pack in the rounds yourself, you gotta do it slowly. If you don't pack the rounds in slowly, they're gonna pop in your hand. It doesn't hurt you, but it's really annoying. The Vulcanette is an easy button. Some folks love it, some think it makes the mod too easy. It's a heavy and stable 6-barrel chain gun that has 250 rounds on tap, and uses a battery to power the firing motor. If the battery gets low, your gun shoots slow. Multiple barrels prevent the weapon from getting hot enough to cook off the caseless rounds, and you can fire on a slow 700 rounds a minute or a screamin' fast 2100 rounds per minute. The gun doesn't jam, but it can feed a bad round. The easiest way to fix this is to let go of the trigger, reset it, and start squeezing again. It'll kick the bad round out, and you'll keep shooting along like nothing ever happened.
Clear.
The break-open rocket grenade launcher is light and compact, while having an extremely fast single-round reload. It's a great little package if you can't find a rocket launcher but don't want the rifle attached to the rifle launcher. So the rocket grenades have an airburst setting. Hold fire mode and move your mouse forward or backwards to start setting the airburst distance, which lets you smoke demons in cover and in foxholes. I recommend learning how to eyeball this, or preferably binding the rangefinder key. Or holding use, then hitting the rangefinder key delays the distance automatically. No, it doesn't add extra distance. Add it yourself or lays a little past your target to start. The rocket launcher is a heavy beast that holds 6 rocket grenades at a time for rapid explosive firepower. The launcher can toggle between acting as a rotary grenade launcher or arming the high-speed direct-fire system of the rocket grenades, trading explosive splash damage for single-target destruction and shield penetration. Airburst is still available by holding fire mode and moving your mouse, as well as the ability to chamber a single heat round, short for high-explosive anti-tank. The heat rounds were designed to be fired individually, but their firepower is incredible. Just about nothing short of a boss can take one of these and live, and their explosive yield lets you destroy terrain, mostly bars and doors, but feel free to get creative. In the straight fire mode, this thing has 2 scopes, one for close-in work and one for hitting stuff way out in the distance. Okay, so the Brontornis ultralight cannon is easy to explain. It's a simple single-shot weapon that fires a 35mm armor-piercing incendiary sabot round, and these little bastards are a piece of hate in your hand. If it's not a boss, it dies, and the bolt will continue to pass through bad guys until it hits a wall. Most simple doors in terrain are going to break when you shoot them with this. It is very, very light for the incredible amount of damage that it puts out, and the rounds are light as well. Good luck finding one. The Thunderbuster direct energy weapon is what happens when you let eggheads shrink down a spaceship weapon. You don't use it like a gun. You don't kill demons with it as much as you kill an entire piece of real estate. There's a big explosion at ground zero, and the energy residue leaves arcs of lightning and plasma discharging for several seconds, and they fucking hurt. Do not walk through them. The energy beam causes extreme burning damage against flesh targets, but does not allow for the beam to ignite and cause the explosion. Any enemies with metal can be sparked off of rather easily, but the burning damage of a direct beam against flesh is reserved for the desperate or the foolish. The alt-fire acts as a flamethrower of sorts, splitting the beam and causing tremendous damage in close combat and frying shields. It burns through cell charge quickly, and it is incredibly easy to kill yourself by accident with this. There is an ammo consolidation feature with the Mag Manager. The only tip I know about how to really use it is just set it to automatic. The Liberator is a battle rifle that uses heavy 7mm cartridges and has a high-powered scope that you'll rarely need out to its full power, but it's there if you need it. This gun is well loved, but contrary to opinion, there are a few downsides to this gun. The first is the noticeable recoil of unsupported fire, especially on the move. The second downside is the more important one, its weight. A loaded Liberator with 120 rounds on your kit weighs the same as a loaded ZM66 with more than 500 rounds. What are the upsides? Fat steel mags work like magazines are supposed to, holding big cased bullets that don't cook off. And this thing excessively kills the shit out of anything you point it at. Huge damage, massive bleeding, headshots are devastating. It melts shields and then melts anything that has them. There are two variants of the Liberator. The bullpup version can fit in a backpack thanks to its size, and the short total length lets it operate in close quarters with fewer problems. The long barrel standard rifle variant has lower recoil at the cost of a longer, bulkier gun. Both versions can take a grenade launcher. The Boss is a high-maintenance diva of a gun, but gives you another way to take advantage of the high damage and penetration of the 7mm round. It has a very strong, variable scope with adjustable drop compensation and a 10-round capacity. The manual bolt action is very finicky and will start to jam due to getting dirt and debris in the gun. Cycle the bolt only when necessary and clean it out more than once in a while. The BFG is awkward, and it takes a while to charge. When this thing finally does let loose, though, you'll see why it gets its name. The flying ball of death sends out beams of energy that turn most things into a paste, and the ball itself creates a massive explosion that flips a room like a pancake if you can put it in the right place. Two things need to be charged for this gun to shoot: the reactor and the cell battery. The reactor is inside of the BFG, and it concentrates and collects residual frag energy in the air before it takes the external cell battery, dumps it into the reactor, and starts the chain reaction to shoot the big ball. Aim a little bit upwards when you fire, as the ball likes to dip when it flies out. You can use the BFG to charge partially spent or empty batteries. Yeah, you can use it to get infinite ammo. But the charging process is messy and unrefined. The same energy that the BFG is using to charge the batteries and shoot itself is the same sparkly green shards of energy that bring demons back to life. It's a bit of a risk if you're surrounded by corpses, but it's technically infinite ammunition. Of all the weapons you need to practice with, this is the one to spend some time with on the range. Holding primary fire sends out the bomb farther. You'll see the little arrows show up. It's nice. Easy. Hold secondary fire, takes the pin out. It's still safe, and you can put the pin back in with reload. If you take out the pin and then hit secondary fire again, now it's dangerous. Throw it. They aren't complicated. You're still gonna kill yourself with them. Zoom key lets you set booby traps. They're very useful.
So I'm going to put this here at the end of the video. This took me almost a year, because since the last video came out like 3 years ago, I moved a time or two, graduated college, started trying to get employed because money's important. I was very rusty, and when I came back, my workflow was terrible, and I wanted to do more with graphics, and I want to do more with better cutting. And goddamn, time just got away from me. Thanks for being patient. There's going to be a couple more segments coming. Honestly, weapons is the hardest segment to do. Hopefully they won't take me 3 years.